to the president, I'm a different type of cat. I'll fight tooth and nail. I'm not going to roll over and get annihilated. I'll fight right to the death.
Hello, Premier Len Gillis from Village Media.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. I was going to say thanks for coming back to Sudbury, but we're in Toronto.
Yeah.
Premier, the president of the Ontario Mining Association, Priya Tandon, was speaking in Sudbury a couple of weeks back, commenting on the tariff situation, and she said, whatever happens, we should not go in guns blazing. She said we need to take a measured approach. What's your take on this?
Well, I've always said throughout the campaign and even before the campaign, we need to match President Trump's tariff by tariff, dollar for dollar. And that's exactly what we're going to do. This is still, the lead is the federal government. The provinces have a big say in it, but it's the federal government that's leading the charge. And we're going to stand shoulder to shoulder no matter who's at the federal government.
Hi there, Alan Hale from the Trillium.
Hi, Alan.
So we had Webbequay and Martin Falls do a presentation here at the conference yesterday.
Yep.
And it sounds like the EA for the road that will go from Martin Falls up to the Ring of Fire won't be complete until 2029 or 2030. After which there'll still be like 5 to 10 years of road construction. You're saying that the Ring of Fire is critical to, protecting the Ontario economy. But how is a project that might not be ready to go or be able to get the minerals out until 2040 going to protect the Ontario economy?
Well, this is what and thank you for that, Alan, by the way. This is what I've been talking about, folks. What jurisdiction in the world can take 5 to 7 to 10 years to get done? That's done. We're going to move forward. We're going to work with First Nations communities. We can't be dilly-dallying around for 5, 10 years. Well, our neighbors to the south are saying, come to the U.S., we'll get your permits for a year, and you have to invest $1 billion. That's what we're up against. Those rules have to change. If we want to survive these tariffs, literally, we need to make sure we move forward. We need to make sure that we get the federal government out of our way. No more duplication on assessments. I just love working with Webbequay and Martin Falls. Arrowland, we don't need the assessment. We're going to start building that 80 kilometers of road. I want to thank the First Nations communities for working with us, because that's going to make sure their communities are prosperous. They're going to have transmission lines. They're going to have electricity. They're going to have roads that we can get better health care and food to them. And they're on board. And I just want to thank Chief Sonny from Maryland and also Webbequay and Martin Falls chiefs for working well. But we're going to sit down and we're going to accelerate that as quickly as possible.
You did put these communities in charge of this EA. This is their process.
That's right.
So are you saying that you're going to cut the EA on the last leg of the road short to make up for time?
We're gonna sit down with them and have a great conversation. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pass it over to Minister Rickford, that's been working with First Nations communities, and we're so fortunate to have him along with George and Kevin and the whole team, Stephen as well, and the electricity that Stephen Lecce is looking at. We're going to change the makeup. But folks, if you think we're going to continue doing the same thing and get a different result, that's not going to happen. We need to move. This is survival mode. This is like I said, there's government mode. And remember back in COVID, we were able to get everything done overnight. That's the mode we're in right now. So I'll pass it over to Minister Rickford.
Thank you for that, Premier. And I just want to add to the facts here. And they are simple. We are building consensus in the Ring of Fire, the First Nations communities working together for legacy infrastructure that will support northern development and ultimately, and sooner rather than later, as to the point of the Premier, the federal government would step out of the way and let the province work directly with First Nations communities so that we can get more work done. We've already accomplished a number of great things, and in fact, there are other critical mineral sites in other parts of Northern Ontario where we are advancing these with First Nations directly around the environmental assessment process and the legacy infrastructure required to access world-class fiber in forestry and other mining sites, separation rapids north of Kenora, and of course lithium deposits in and around Thunder Bay and north of Red Lake. These are things that are happening now. We're persuaded, with the support of municipal leaders and First Nations leaders, that we are going to get that work done, and that we all have a desire to speed that up.
Thank you.
Hi, Premier. Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
Hi, Siobhan.
You rolled the dice somewhat in calling an early election. Given that your party did not win more seats than last time, and we saw a stronger Liberal Party regaining party status, is that a gamble that was worthwhile to you?
100%. And, Siobhan, I'd phrase it this way if I were you. Premier, you just set a record with your team that's never been done in the history of Ontario. No government, just think of this, all the way back to inception, had more of a popular vote election after election after election. We went from 40.5% in 2018 up to 40.85% in 2022 and up to 43% in 2025, which was actually 239,000 more votes. We have a stronger mandate than we've ever had before. No government in the history of Ontario were able to accomplish what we were accomplished. But I appreciate that question.
You talked about being in survival mode now rather than government mode. So will your government institute or respond to tariffs within the legislature, calling back the legislature soon, or will you operate outside of that for the time being?
Well, thank you for that, Siobhan. Here are the election Ontario rules. No one can be sworn in until the week of the 17th. Our cabinet is in place to make decisions as we talk right today. I'm in constant communication with the Prime Minister and the other premiers. I talk to the premiers every day. Had a good conversation with a couple of them yesterday as well. Premier Smith, myself had a great conversation. We're all on the same track. We're going into this as a united Canada. And united we stand, divided we fall, and Canada is united.
Premier, you have the largest cabinet in the history of Ontario before the election. You've said we're kind of on wartime footing. Is it time to have a streamlined, more narrowly focused cabinet? Because it's getting a bit unwieldy with 36, 37 members. So are you going to slim it down? Sorry, guys, in the background. But are you going to slim it down just because you need a more narrowly focused team?
No, I don't think so. The only thing we should slim down is the media. But in saying that, what we should be doing is making sure, as we see the province, since we took office, there's $150 billion when we took office. We're now increased that up to $214 billion. That's a $64 billion increase. There's over 1 million more people working today than there was 7 years ago because we created the environment and the conditions for companies to invest over $70 billion into our province. As Vic is traveling around the world, and I want to thank him for his endless travel, we have on the table right now $70 billion. Are people nervous? Yeah, they're nervous because of President Trump. We have to make sure, you have two choices here, folks. We roll over as a country and just let them run over us, or we fight like hell, like we've never fought before. I'm taking option 2. I'm fighting like hell, and we're going to protect Canada. He's underestimating the Canadian people, the resilience of the Canadian people, and the strength of the Canadian people.
And Premier, on Thursday night you said that it's time to put partisanship aside and take a Team Ontario approach. So I'm wondering, have you reached out to the leaders of the opposition yet? And if you do, or when you do, what's your message to them? And are you going to try to work with them for the greater good in the next 4 years, presuming you don't go early again?
Yeah, I actually talked to Marit. She's very professional. And Mike, I got to reach out to. I haven't heard anything from Bonnie Crombie. She wasn't too kind on election night. But I appreciate all of them for running. I appreciate all the candidates, no matter what party you came from, running. They sacrificed a lot, and I just want to thank them, no matter what political stripe you're from.
Bonjour, Jérémy Bergeron avec Radio-Canada. First question, so you won't be back before March 15. What can you do for the tariff until there, and what do you intend to do about the tariff?
Well, these are a couple of things that I'm responsible for as a province. The federal government's leading the charge. The communication has been fabulous with the PM and the government as well. I said, number one, I don't start a tariff war, but we're going to win this tariff war. Right off the hop, I've directed the LCBO, we're the largest purchaser of alcohol in the world, to remove every bit of U.S. alcohol off the shelves. I know my good friend, the governor of Kentucky, he's losing his mind right now. I said, you better talk to your president. Mitch McConnell, senior senator from Kentucky, they're losing their mind. We purchase over $1 billion of alcohol, 3,600 products, 35 states. It's going to hit them. We call them the kitchen table issues. Then we're going to cancel Starlinks right away from Elon Musk. Not that $100 million makes a difference for him, but it's principle. I've directed the procurement of over $30 billion of goods, not to go to the U.S., to make sure we buy Ontario first. And if we can't find it in Ontario and we can't build it in Ontario, we go across the country. We have 51 tariff-free agreements with countries around the world. We're going to diversify our trade. I've been asking kindly for all the retailers, and by the way, this is a massive impact, folks. Over all of Canada, we purchase $800 billion with a B, $800 billion worth of goods from retailers. A lot comes in from the U.S. I love the software. People are just stepping up. I love going down the aisle of the shopping store or grocery store, and people are picking up to look at the back of the label. They've come up with software to scan it. A lot of people can't scan it. I'm asking politely, until I implement it, every retail store, when you go look at the shelf talker that has the price, we need to see a Canadian flag on that price. A lot of people can't pick it up and scan it. So please work with us, or we're going to legislate it and start onshoring goods from you're bringing around the world. There's nothing we can't build here in Ontario. Absolutely nothing. So I'm asking for their cooperation to do that. And that's billions. We buy over $300 billion right here in Ontario. So we're going to focus on that. I've never seen patriotism like this in my entire life, running wild across the country. And we're just going to keep ramping it up over and over again. So our 30 billions, it doesn't include the municipalities. And I know all 444 municipalities are on board, but we're going to make sure we legislate it that you're buying Ontario first, Canada second. And I get it. There's some products you aren't able to get. I get it. But I'll tell you one thing, we start shifting it, they're going to feel the pain. And they want to go after our families, take food off our tables, try to close down our companies. I'll tell you, we're going to fight like I've never fought before to protect Canada, to protect the people of Ontario and their businesses and their communities and their jobs.
The 4 new small modular reactors planned for the Darlington nuclear generating station will rely on enriched uranium coming from the U.S. Why invest in a project that will increase Ontario reliance on the U.S.?
Okay, so before I pass it over to Minister Lecce, Minister of Energy, I'll tell you this. Uranium for the U.S. comes from Saskatchewan. I've had deep conversations with my good friend, closest ally, Scott Moe, the Premier of Saskatchewan. That uranium goes over to Port Hope, Ontario to get processed. From Port Hope, it goes down to get enriched down to the U.S. I will not and cannot speak for Scott Moe. He's a patriot. He loves Canada. But if we got a stockpile or high-grade nickel here in Ontario and sell it to the world, so be it. And as for uranium, I'll leave that up to Scott to decide. The potash that fertilizes all their farming communities. As President Trump is going after our dairy farmers, we're sending them fertilizer. 87% of it is going to the U.S. And yeah, can they try to get potash everywhere else? They can, but they can't get it up the Mississippi River. So they're stuck with Canadian potash. Can they get uranium? Yeah, if they want to cozy up to Russia, which I see President Trump doing, you can try to get uranium there. But why would you do that? We want to ship more uranium, more potash, more nickel, more energy, and build an AMCAN fortress. I can't for the life of me figure out why this guy's attacking his closest neighbors, allies, and friend.
Hi, Premier. It's Lorenda Redekop with CBC.
Hi, Lorenda.
One thing that came with the election is that the Liberals now have official party status. Do you plan to change the definition of official party status and the number of seats?
No. They went from a minivan up to a larger van. They went from a 10-seat minivan, now they're into the 14 long-stretched minivan. So I'll leave it up to them. I mean, up to us, and we aren't changing the rules for them.
Gotcha. One of the things that also happened during the election is that you lost a seat in Etobicoke. I know you've referred to it as Ford Nation. What was that like for you?
Sure, you know something, folks, I'm competitive. I want to win all 124 seats. Some you lose by a little bit, some you win by a little bit. And, you know, as you saw up north, they're doing a recount. We lost by 4 votes, a whole bunch of them. And it goes back and forth. We won some by a few votes. They won some by a few votes. But the most important thing, I got to thank the people of Ontario. We had the largest mandate and popular vote in the history of this country that no one's ever been able to do. I thank the people.
Hey, good morning, Premier Colin DeMello from Global News. I know you said you're going to stick with the size of cabinet, but I'm wondering if there's going to be a major reorganization of cabinet, or the ministers who you had in the last session, you're going to continue on in the roles that they had.
Well, thank you so much, Colin. I'll tell you one thing. We're going to sit down, review everything. But I'll tell you one thing. These people here, they're still in cabinet. When I call them ministers, they're still in cabinet. Are we going to switch a few things? Maybe. So let's see what happens. I want the best players on the ice. The problem is, when you have 80 players that are all the best players, that's the toughest decision you have to make in being premier.
When it comes to that Starlink deal, so there's a lot of questions about, you know, when you're willing to pull the trigger or not. So just to clarify, if there are no tariffs, you're not going to cancel the Starlink deal, but only if there are tariffs you would. But what level of tariffs would you pull that trigger?
Well, first of all, thanks again, Colin, for that question. Folks, I don't want to start the tariff war. You know, we want to win the tariff war. But let's see what President Trump says. He changes his mind every single day. But let me be very clear. I talk to more Americans than pretty well anyone in Canada. I talk to governors, senators, congresspeople. Not one single American said it's a great idea to attack our closest friends and cherished allies. Not one governor, not one senator, not one congressperson, Republican or Democrat, say it's a great idea to attack your largest customer. Who attacks their largest customer? And they're our largest customer. It doesn't make sense. Yes, will it hurt us? Definitely it'll hurt us. Will it hurt the Americans? It will definitely hurt the Americans. A tariff on Canada is a tax on Americans. And I'm going to repeat that on NBC, CNN, Fox News, CNBC. I'm going to be hammering the airwaves to get that message to the Americans. They're going to get hurt. It's the wrong decision.
Premier Jeff Gray, Globe and Mail. I want to just make sure I'm taking you up on that slimming down. I'm trying to lose some weight. The media is slimming down.
I've been trying to do that for 7 years.
You know. We should work out together. Okay. I wanted to get to energy. One of the things you may do very quickly if there are tariffs is either put a tax on energy or actually cut off energy exports to the United States. Can you clarify where those plans are at? What kind of surtax are you talking about?
Well, we're going to have every option. We're going to use every tool in our toolbox. And I appreciate the question, but if they want to try to annihilate Ontario, I will do everything, including cut off their energy, with a smile on my face. So, and I'm encouraging every other province to do the same. Quebec, Manitoba, BC, we all have to act in unison. Out east, they rely on our energy. They need to feel the pain. They want to come at us hard, we're going to come back twice as hard. But I apologize. I said I'd call Stephen Lecce up about the last question in energy. Do you want to come up and say a few words, Stephen?
Sure.
With respect to the small modular reactor project, we're leading the first in the G7. Right now, we're estimating over 2,000 jobs sustained to that project with a GDP gain of well over $13 billion. So the first mover's advantage means jobs for Ontarians. That's the Premier's vision when he announced this some years ago. So we're moving forward. First will be in place by 2030, the next 3 units by the mid-2035. That's 1,200 megawatts of clean power. Now, to the question that was asked, we actually have a vision of exporting our SMRs, small modular reactors, around the world. And the Premier dispatched me in Poland, in Estonia. Rudy Kazeto and I were in Eastern Europe, and we're making commitments with the Estonian, Czech Republic, and Polish governments. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars of commitment to buy Canadian tech, which means jobs here at home. With respect to the surcharge, every option's on the table. We want to avert the tariff, should we need to. The first step, as the Premier's communicated over the past weeks, is the imposition of a charge for every megawatt they buy from us, essentially increasing the revenues for Ontarians. That's step one, and of course we have many other levers we can use. And the Premier is saying this, if we're in a full-out economic war where hundreds of thousands of jobs are at risk, we will ensure everything's on the table to defend our jobs, defend our economy, and make clear to the Americans that there's going to be pain imposed on their consumers and their businesses too.
And just to follow up with the Premier about the Starlink deal, why not cancel that right now? Given what the President, the display in the Oval Office, you've been a strong supporter of Ukraine. We know that that there's been a problem with Starlink in Ukraine, and Mr. Musk, why not send a message right now to the Ukrainian people and to people in Canada and say this deal is done, we're not doing business with this guy?
I'm not going to start a tariff war. I'm not going to be the one that pokes the line, per se. But I can assure you, he comes at us, he's going to get a rude awakening. We're unlike any other country. You know, we have 41 million people, but we're powerful. We're powerful on energy. We're powerful on nuclear energy, on oil, on goods going back and forth across the border. We buy more off the United States than any other government in the world. And I always say, President Trump, you can't unscramble an egg. The supply chain's so intertwined. You just have to make a larger omelet. That's what you have to do. And we'll see how he moves on this. But we will respond, as sure as I'm standing here, tariff for tariff, dollar for dollar. And anything that I can do as a province, we're going to do.
Hi, Premier Barbara with QP Briefing. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Can you hear me okay? Sorry. Is it working? Okay, perfect. Sorry, Premier. So on Thursday, you said that during your speech, you did say that you plan to move forward with that bill to help municipalities to get rid of the homeless encampments in their communities. I'm wondering when exactly do you plan to move forward with that and get that piece of legislation passed?
Well, we have it in essence that we gave strong mayor powers. People do not want homeless people living in their backyards, in their parks, feeling unsafe, tearing the place up, leaving garbage all over the place, leaving drugs and needles all over the place. That's not happening. We've poured $1.4 billion into the homeless shelter program. We're building heart hubs across the province at over $560 million to help them, support them. There's nothing more than I want to get these people in a shelter. But some of these people won't go in a shelter because they want to do drugs. They want to drink in the shelter, and we aren't having it. Simple. They need support. I believe in supporting people with an alcohol or a drug problem. I feel like we were throwing massive amounts of money and support to help these people get back on their feet, to be very successful in society, give back to society, get a job. That's what I believe in, helping people, not handing out drugs to them like the safe supply from the federal government. They get to go into any place, get free drugs, heavy-duty drugs. Then they take them, then they sell them and get other people wired on drugs. That has to stop. That has to stop. Simple.
Okay, so you don't have a date yet to pass this legislation?
As soon as we get back, that's going to be one of our top priorities. But in essence, they'll do it right now. They can move people along. Just move them along and find them shelter.
Premier, you said recently that you wanted to be Premier forever, but I'm sure there are other people in your cabinet who would like to serve as leader as well. So I'm just wondering, are you planning to run in the next election as well?
I'm going to plan to run for the next 100 years until I'm pushing up tulips. That's it. Simple. I've had the greatest team in the world. I would not be here without my team. They're the reason I'm here. The reason they're all here is because of the people. That's how it works.
This will be the last reporter.
Premier Mark McAllister from City News.
Hi, Mark.
I might as well pick up on that last sentiment. Will you be giving the MPPs a raise finally?
You know something? I got to tell you, folks, there's no private sector, no public sector that MPPs of all political stripes, I don't care if they're Green, NDP, or Liberal, or PC, they all work their backs off. And they all are very patriotic towards Ontario, to Canada. The last time an MPP got a raise, what was it, 2007? Am I wrong? 2007. It's terrible. They have no pension, no, I don't want to sound like a bleeding heart for politicians, but come on, folks. These guys work their backs off, and it's not fair. Since 2007, nowhere in the country has this happened. The federal government, the MPs there, Trudeau, they get a raise every single week, it seems. So, anyways, I think we get a bipartisan group, but that's not our priority, right? It's not our priority to line our pockets or whatever. Our priority is to line the pockets of the people that elected us, to keep working hard, to create a strong economy. That's what we need to do.
Let's finish it off with tariffs once again. You don't want to start a tariff war. However, we've heard a lot from you about the things that you plan on doing. Is that not essentially starting this, or at least entering into the tariff war, if not starting it?
No, that's just informing the U.S. public, the elected officials, and the president. You come at us, we aren't rolling over. Sure, we're going to get hurt. There's no doubt. But they're going to get hurt just as much. When they start closing the plants, auto plants, and the supply will last 5 days, by the way, before plants close on both sides of the border, because everyone knows the parts go back and forth 8 times, and they don't have the manpower to build the cars right now, and everything's working fine. Everyone's hunky-dory. Everyone's happy. But he comes in there and he wants to throw fireworks in the middle of everything. It's not broken. It's simple as that. Matter of fact, if we took out our energy, all the oil that they want, by the way, says he doesn't need Canada, but build the XL pipeline. It's pretty ironic. Take that out. The Americans have a $50 billion surplus on trade if we take out the energy. I'm okay with that, right? I'd want to sell them more, by all means, but everyone's a big happy family. And then he wants to come in and, disturb everything. Go after the rest of the world that's causing you a problem, not your number one customer. Ontario alone is your 3rd largest trading partner in the world. Treat us with respect. 50% of your high-grade nickel that your military and manufacturing relies on, 50% that you use, it comes from Sudbury. And emphasize high grade, because there's other nickel around the world. China has the market cornered. But guess what? If we got to stockpile that nickel here and sell it to the rest of the world and shut down your manufacturing, your military, I'll do it in a heartbeat. To the president, I'm a different type of cat. I'll fight tooth and nail. I'm not going to roll over and get annihilated. I'll fight right to the death. Not that there's going to be any deaths, but, the economy. I will go on. He has no idea. He has absolutely no idea.
Thank you. This concludes today's press conference.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.